I'm Rashawn and this is Joy, and we are your nutrition coaches here at the VFit. And we are going to discuss building a balanced breakfast. So, starting off,
Well, I know I was thinking, and I know you said this yesterday, or when we were talking about the presentation in general, that breakfast, we say, and it's true, is the most important meal of the day, right? It sets our day up. It sets, the tone of the day, in providing us with that energy, fuel, everything to get our day going.
right.
So we want to make sure it's balanced. And I know what I think balance mean or what that means. So we say balance. Like, what does that mean? Why is it important for our meals to be balanced? And I'm asking you this, Coach Rashawn, and I'll throw my 2 cents in.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of different reasons, but I think one of the main reasons is to have that sustainable energy throughout the day.
Right.
So we want to be able to, wake up, get our days started. If you choose to work out, you have the energy to work out and to go through your day, work, play with the kids. So it is sustainable for the energy. And then also having that balanced meal helps you to stay full longer.
And then when we talk about the word balance in general, we're talking about making sure, and you hear us, anyone who's had any nutrition conversation with Rashawn and I, we're talking about those macros, right? And so when we say balance, we want to make sure that our meals include all of our macros because they all serve a purpose. And your protein is gonna make sure that you feel satisfied and full, and it's gonna help you to sustain you throughout the day. It's going to rebuild those muscles or help you with recovery,
right,
and with those muscle structures. But then you have your carbs, that's your main source of energy, and then you have your fats that's going to help you dissolve those fat soluble vitamins. So you need all three, and so that's what we mean when we say balanced. So with any meal, you want it to be balanced. We're going to focus on breakfast today because I think some people get tricked up on that breakfast. Right, they think breakfast foods, and we have to stay within this category. So we're going to kind of explore that a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, I something you said, Rashawn, you said, one of y'all, I think it was Rashawn, the breakfast helping you, so you can be full or whatever. But I find that when I eat breakfast, by 10 o'clock, I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to eat again. I need to eat something. I find that I want to eat. Well, and I'm like, okay.
And that's a good point because I think you have to train your body, right? And the more you eat, the more you fuel your body is going to burn that food and prepare you like, okay, time to feed me again. So I think you're feeling that, it's time to eat again. We've burned what you've provided us with. Now let's get some more in us. I think we come across clients all the time or members all the time that'll say, well, I'm not hungry in the morning, right? I'm not hungry. I'm not used to eating. Like if I try to eat, it's too much because you've probably trained your body not to eat. But once you start incorporating that first meal and your body starts using that for energy,
right.
Your body's gonna say, okay,
it's time
give
to
me some more.
And so it's almost like just speeding up the metabolism.
Yeah. So I think people come in saying, I want my metabolism to, it's just kind of slowed down. Yep. It probably has. Right. And it's not just the activity level, it's feeding your body.
Right.
All right.
So then that means when you're hungry at 10, that's time for that snack. So that AM snack before lunch.
Yeah. And I think we even get hung up on snacks too, right? I know I did. I'm like, snack. You still want it to be balanced. And when we say balance, whenever you hear that word balance, we're really talking about making sure it includes all of those key, those 3 macros. We want to make sure that it's covering all
part, yeah.
It doesn't have to be a meal. I look at it as mini meals, and I conceptualize it as mini meals to make sure I include all 3 of my macros, that I have a protein, that I have a carb, that I have a fat. But yeah, it's your body saying, okay, give me something, right. And give it something. Don't feel like, oh no, I already ate. I need to wait. It's not noon yet. Feed your body.
And that's what I do. Because I have to eat my breakfast. So I'm gonna eat a breakfast. It's just that around about 10 or 10:30, I'm like, oh man.
What's next?
And feed it.
Exactly.
So let's go ahead and build a breakfast. Let's build what a balanced breakfast looks like. So let's kind of talk that through.
Right.
Okay.
So the first step is, and I think is probably the easiest way to make sure that that meal is balanced, is picking your protein. I think when you start with that protein, it's a little bit easier to say, okay, this is what I need to have in my carb, and this is what I need to have in my fat, or as my fat, healthy fat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So pick that protein first. Before we even go to the next slide, just what is a protein that you automatically go for when you're thinking breakfast? I know what I automatically go for. What do you go for?
A couple of things. I really, after I got into the salmon,
Mm-hmm.
or I might just do an egg, like boiled egg.
Mm-hmm.
Those are usually the two that I just kind of will go, or that's it. I'm gonna most time, or I'll just because other than that, I'll just probably do a breakfast smoothie, and it's not a lot of protein. I put in there. I'll do a powder because I'll do like my spinach and my fruit. So
I usually build my breakfast around eggs. I always thought, like, I know it's gonna have eggs.
Yeah.
So that's my
I just don't want to eat. I think I just don't want to. I have this whole thing. I don't have a cholesterol problem. I don't, but I'm always leery of. I don't want to eat too many eggs.
So if whether cholesterol is the issue or not, or if you're concerned about cholesterol, then we just eliminate the yolk. Then it's the egg white.
Okay.
Right. So you can eliminate the yolk altogether and find your fat because somewhere else. If you keep the yolk, that's your fat, so you don't have to find a healthy fat. But if you eliminate the yolk altogether, then we'll just find another place of, to incorporate that fat again. Or sometimes what we like to do is we'll do 2 egg whites and 1 egg yolk. So we'll do 1 whole egg and then an egg white, so that we're not doing double yolk. Like, so still keeping in mind the cholesterol piece of it and even the fat, right? Still keeping that in mind. But just if I normally do 2 eggs, I'll do 1 whole egg and just the egg white of the second egg. If I do 3 eggs, I may do 2 egg whites and 1 whole egg. So it's a couple of ways kind of around that
to cut back on that fat. Yeah.
What is your protein of choice when you, or what would you build when you're building your breakfast? What do you start with in terms of protein? One of your go-tos?
One of my go-tos. I typically go with an egg, but then there are days where I say, oh, I want some bacon. So I mean, bacon is not the worst thing, but you do need to eat it in moderation.
Yeah.
And so if I do have bacon, then I make sure that I'm not adding more fat because bacon already contains a lot of fat.
Yeah. And I think that's the key, right?
Because
we got to throw out these words that say bad and this is not good, and food is food, and all food can be good. You can have all food just in moderation. So have your bacon. I'm one of those. I'm like, turkey bacon, no such thing. There's no bacon on a turkey. That's meat when you think of it. So we're trying to minimize processed food. So just eat your bacon.
Yeah.
Grab some bacon. And then my thing, Canadian bacon is always a great choice. So I went through a phase where that was all I was eating was Canadian bacon, because if you look at it, the amount of fat it's really lean.
Oh, yeah.
And so it cuts down. I know it's not the same as bacon, but it's a leaner protein. And so I can I love making my own like egg McMuffins.
Oh yeah.
When you were saying it, that's what I'm thinking of. So if I did Canadian bacon and the egg white, I'm thinking right there, because I do like the egg white McMuffin, but they don't make them at the ones by us anymore. They don't sell them anymore.
I make my own, and whenever you make your own, you're cutting out a lot of processed stuff. You're controlling what goes in there. You can get an English muffin, which is when we get to our carbs, that's just a lesser, when you start comparing like how much carb is actually included. kind of a lesser one, and you can get or even what is the flats?
Yeah, the thins.
The thin, right? And then
go ahead.
or
I would say, or you can go the veggie route. I know sometimes we've made burgers and just cut the sweet potato really thin and cook it that way. And so, I mean, it's different.
Making the sweet potato, the bread.
Yeah, so having the sweet potato and just cutting it into
Okay,
the sweet potato.
Sorry.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. No,
So,
I think I'll go with the English muffin because I do like bread.
I went through my phase. I went through my phase of that, but the English muffin, believe it or not, and then I even compared it, right? Because they have like the 100-calorie English muffin versus it's when you look at it side by side, there's not any much of a difference. So you can just go with your English muffin. And then you have your Canadian bacon, and you can do 3. Actually, the serving size of the Canadian bacon is 3 slices, and I don't even need the 3 slices.
No, I don't need 3.
I do 1 or 2 slices.
Right.
I have my egg white, and then I can add my tomato. Sometimes I'll add tomato and a little bit of lettuce, or that's a give or take. And then to add fat back in, because I'm doing my Canadian. Yes, I do an avocado.
I was just gonna say, so I still need fat because I was thinking avocado too.
Yeah, avocado.
Yep, you can add a piece of avocado, and now you have your own little English muffin that you control the ingredients. So awesome.
Yeah, so that's a good sandwich.
And I gotta write my little thing. I gotta write that down.
Oh yeah. And I was just gonna add one thing that's big right now, and it's always been big, but the everything bagel seasoning.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
I have that. Yeah, I have that from the other time we made something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably avocado toast.
Avocado toast. Oh, we're going to be talking about some different options at the end of the presentation. And so we'll give you guys some other ideas of different breakfast options and making sure we're adding everything. So we have a good idea about picking our protein. Some things to keep in mind. Our protein is important because it has all of those amino acids that we need, right? And there are so many supplements that can help us get that, but just eating our lean protein is going to help us. So some lean proteins to keep in mind, or just thinking when protein, you want to stick to those lean proteins. Yeah. So you have your chicken breast, maybe kind of cutting up as chicken strips and including them either on the side, or you can make an omelet with that. So you have chicken breast, you have your turkey. I like to do like a ground turkey saute something for breakfast, right? You can always throw a little ground turkey or just have the turkey breasts or pieces in there. We talked about egg whites, your Canadian bacon.
Any type of fish.
Oh, yes. Any type of fish. So I like smoked salmon. That's my breakfast.
Yeah, that's probably all the fish I'm going to do on a sandwich and breakfast.
Even there's some good salmon, baked salmon patties,
right.
that you can throw in.
Oh yeah, I like to do my own the baked salmon patties. I like to do that.
Oh yeah,
I hadn't had that in a while. I forgot about that one.
So when picking your protein, just want to kind of keep in mind or make sure that you're sticking to more of those lean proteins, because the more fat that you add, or the more fat that's in that protein, is going to take those grams up in again, I guess, increase those calories as well.
Right. And then one thing to add, because I know we do have some vegetarians.
Yes.
So like your oatmeal, your oats.
Yes.
I love oatmeal.
And that's a good point, Rashawn. I'm glad you brought that up, because when we say protein, automatically a lot of us go right towards thinking about meat, right? And protein does not equal meat. It's not like, synonymous for meat. Right. Protein is those beans, those legumes. As you mentioned, oatmeal or oats, that's a great source of protein.
Right.
So just kind of keep that in mind as well. It doesn't mean meat. Any of those beans, like black beans, chickpeas, you're adding, that's all protein as well. It's protein and carbs. So
one quick question.
Yes.
Joy, I was telling Candace about it. She wants to know if she can join the session.
Absolutely.
Let me send her the information.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, oh my God, because she's always trying to find new food and trying to stay healthy and it's actually my niece. She's lives in New York and she's always trying to, let me get this information and I'll send it to her.
I'm sorry, I didn't see your message.
Alrighty.
Oh, I sent it. So
Yeah, and so as
Okay.
she's joining, we always talk about, so just going back to balanced and keeping it balanced, we want to make sure that protein is about 30% of
Correct.
that meal that we're eating. So when Rashawn and I were talking a little bit about this, I was saying it's so easy. And we mentioned this at the beginning of the call. It's like, you're like, oh, I have eggs and turkey, or eggs and chicken, or eggs.
yeah.
Hey, I think we're making it about 50% protein. It's like protein upon protein. So just be kind of cognizant of that. Okay, so you're going to build it around protein. We're going to find our protein first, build it around protein. And I think our next slide is actually going to give you some ideas. So this will look familiar for anyone who has done the nutrition program with us, plug. That giving you the green is like our lean proteins. And if we stay in that category, with our lean proteins, we're going to be, hitting exactly what we need, the right amount of fat that we need. Yellow, this is moderate. We want to eat that in moderation. And then our red is, let's limit. So I do have some individuals who love bacon, right?
Of course, yeah.
And so what we'll say is, well, let's not eat it every day. Can we just do that maybe once a week, maybe once or twice a week? At most, let's play around with some of our other options. And as you can see, Canadian bacon is one of those lean options. But using this kind of as a guide. But remember, there's never a you can't have, right? Because then we're restricting ourselves and that's turning it into a diet. And this is not a diet. This is just choosing healthy options for lifestyle. And that's something that we can maintain.
Good. I like that.
All
My
right.
chicken wings.
Chicken wings.
Yes. So any questions about protein before we build upon our protein?
No, I'm good on that.
All right. So the next step, let's add carbs, right? So we've chosen our protein, and I think the key here when building our breakfast is, let's start with our protein and let's build around it. So now that we've chosen our protein, whether that's going to be fish, whether that's going to be eggs or oats, now let's add those carbs. Carbs sometimes get a bad rep, right?
Always get a bad rep.
And you're always like, oh, I'm gonna do a low carb diet, or I need to limit my carbs. I'm not gonna eat carbs today. No, that's wrong. Carbs are good. It's just I like to say there's a huge spectrum. Right. So over here on this spectrum, you have your sugars and you have your starchy or carbs, those breads, those pastas, and all that great stuff, right? And then over on this side, you have those vegetables, those greens. Yeah. And then I say in the middle is those fruits, right? Because some of our fruits can be starchier than others and have more sugar than others. So you want to be careful. Fruit is good, but you have to be careful. I was talking to someone this week and they were saying they juice in the morning and they were juicing, right? Yay, juicing, great. But what they didn't realize is that they were just drinking a bunch of sugar because of the options that they were putting in their juice. And it was very eye-opening. And this was something that they kind of came to on their own when they were looking at what they were specifically juicing at that time. They were like, oh, I'm just drinking sugar. Like, I'm not doing anything good here. And so they had to start switching out and choosing those lesser, not as sweet, I guess, fruits, and adding more of the vegetables type carbs to make it more balanced and not, be counterproductive in their juicing. So
and that's interesting. And that's one thing that we always want to remember when making those smoothies or the juices and stuff, is throwing some greens in there. Because like you say, if we stick to some of those fruits, the higher on the glycemic index, which is sugar.
Yeah. So why is carbs important? Carbs is our body's preferred choice for energy. Now our body can use the fat, it can use the protein. Those who do the keto diet, the body is using the fat for the energy, but the preferred source that our body wants to use is carbs. So we need to give our body enough carbs so that it can break down that glucose so it can use it for fuel. We need to make sure that we're properly fueling our body.
So I guess next we can go into
some of those carbs.
Yeah, some of those carbs on what we would choose for breakfast.
Yeah.
So like we kind of already built our breakfast sandwich, but if we had to do something different, like for example, if I did a ground sausage and I say, okay, I want to make a hash. So I need some type of veggie. So I may do some type of squash or pumpkin, since it is pumpkin season. I love pumpkin season.
Or even a sweet potato hash.
So we have that ground meat, and now I'm throwing in either sweet potato, some type of squash, I guess that's squash, or maybe not, or pumpkin.
Now for me, I'll take that same ground turkey because I'm not a squashy person, and I can do okay with the hash piece, but I'll take that same thing and I would grab my quinoa or my barley or my farro because I'm more
that's yeah.
So but you can see how you can take the same stuff and it just depends on what do you like. So I'm more of a grain, so I'm going to go more towards my barley, my farro, my quinoa, and I'm going to make a bowl. I'm going to make a breakfast bowl.
Right.
So I'll, make my base being that quinoa or whichever one of those grains. And then I'll add my ground turkey. And then I'm going to load it up with vegetables. So I'm going to cut up some onions and peppers. And I like texture. So that crunch, some scallions and tomatoes, whatever I have, I'm going to throw it in to give me some different texture in there.
So when I add I'm good with the quinoa and the ground turkey. That's perfect. But when I add like my peppers, mushroom, I add all that kind of stuff, onions, all of that.
That's all.
What are they?
Yeah, those are all carbs. Those are all carbs. Those are remember the spectrum, right? So our farro and or you said quinoa, that's more on the grainier side. So that's giving us but it's complex carbs. So it's really good for our body. That's going to help with that energy. And then I say those vegetables, that's like our free carbs. You can have as much as that as you like. You can just add, because that's going to yield a very low calorie count. And so if you were to just do that, it's great. Like say you were to take the quinoa out and you were only to do the vegetables. That's great. But is that enough to sustain you through the day from an energy perspective?
Okay.
Probably not. And you can play around with that. I know I've learned like with that low carb diet, all that means is I'm taking a lot of that starchy carbs out and I'm sticking more to my vegetables. But what I found is that from a day as a whole, by the end of the day, I'm like really lethargic. I'm barely making it because I didn't fuel my body with enough carbs. So it's kind of hard. It can be difficult. I'm not going to say it's hard. It can be challenging to make sure that you're eating enough vegetables to give you all of the fuel. So throwing in some of those complex carbs, whether it's grains or the pumpkin and the squash and the sweet potato, all of that, right? Any of those choices are going to give you a little bit more for your body to kind of burn and use as fuel. So kind of keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Any questions?
No, yeah, I prefer the grains over the other stuff at least for breakfast.
Everybody's going to be different. Like we all have different flavor profiles and we all have our different things that we like. And I think it's just understanding what you like and then staying in your lane, right? So I think it's all kind of equivalent. Just depends on what you like. And then you can look at our food option guide. So when you start looking at your different grains, that's going to fall in the moderate glycemic, right? So you don't want to eat too much of that. I find that, and you can correct me, Rashawn, but like a quarter cup generally is my go-to when I get into my grains. Okay. So I'll do like a quarter cup of my quinoa, quarter cup of my barley. Right. And then I'll load everything on top, right? You can see with your low glycemic, it doesn't say it here, or not even, your low carbs, where you have your non-starch low carbs. It doesn't say it there, but these are the things that you can generally have unlimited. right? So when you start adding those vegetables in on top of your bowl or inside your hash, you can generally load that up. Those non-starch, low carb or low volume carbs. And then you can see with the low glycemic, this is where we're getting into our pumpkin and our squashes, right? So that low glycemic, it doesn't have, it's lower in sugar. So these are the ones that you're going to want to stay more towards.
Right.
And how much? Because you said like the quinoa, a quarter of a cup. Like how much? About.
So with portion control, and I guess the easiest way that we like to do is, I guess the hand guide.
Yeah, we can start with the hand guide.
Yeah.
So if you cup your hand, and everybody's hand is a different size, but I
And
think
mine is small,
right? No, that's exactly. Everybody's hand is a different size, and I think it's according to your body. So you cup your hand. If it can fit in the palm of your hand without falling out, that's what you should be eating. So not this.
Yeah, exactly. You said spilling over. Yeah, and then it just depends also. I guess for men is typically
it's going to be two,
and for women is typically one.
All right. Okay.
Enjoy those grains.
All right. So low carb takeaway. Low carb does not mean no carb. Low carb typically means that I'm sticking more to my non-starchy, low glycemic carbs. It doesn't mean necessarily the amount of carbs. It's the type of carbs that I'm eating. But carbs are important. Carbs are necessary. That is our fuel. So remember, what does our protein do? And Coach Rashawn, you could jump in. What does our protein do? Our protein is going to it's going to help us recover.
Right.
It's going to help build those muscles. And then our carbs are going to give us that fuel. So 2 different functions. We need both. And then there's that third option.
Healthy fats.
Healthy fats.
All right.
No, that was me. Ignore that. I was just trying to ignore that. What she's asking is that you would send her. I sent her the information, but she needed the link instead.
Yeah.
Here. Let
me give you her number.
I'll just send it to you in a text.
Okay, and then I'll drop it in for her.
And you said the second one is not. Don't approve it. Okay.
Yeah. I was just trying to copy the link, and it just went right.
Called, yeah.
I'm just gonna copy.
And so to add with those carbs, we want that to make up about 40% of our plate.
Yes.
So we have our protein at 30%, our carbohydrates at 40%.
And even adding that, so we hear 40%, that means like, oh, I can have more of that than I can have of my protein. Yes. But I think when we start getting into those carbs that have a little bit more starch, it's automatically adding that percentage or that amount in. So it's not like, oh, okay, that means I can load up on it. Yeah. It's just saying it's just when I start adding those starchier carbs to it, the grains or the squashes or the pumpkin, it is going to lend itself to being a little bit more in terms of calories. And we're going to talk about a little bit more about portions and the plate method, and you'll see how it gets to that. We're going to give you a more simplistic way of looking at that 30, 40, and now our fats, another 30%. Yeah. Okay. Healthy fats. So not just fats, healthy fats. So I read this, and I don't hear it as often, but I think I've heard it before, is that, oh, let me not eat fat because fat makes you fat. That's not true. Fat doesn't make you fat. Fat is important too. Fat has its own function, and we need to make sure that our meals are incorporating fats as well. Fats is going to help our bodies dissolve those fat soluble vitamins that we need. And it's also going to help us to stay fuller longer. And so we need to have those fats so that we're not, like, oh gosh, I'm hungry. Oh gosh.
Oh, yeah. And then I guess in addition, also our, just our skin and our brain, and, it supports a lot.
Yes. So the thing is with fats, though, even when we're choosing our healthier fats, and we'll talk about what healthier fats mean, is fats are denser. So it doesn't take a lot for those calories to add up. Mm-hmm. So even though, yes, you need fats, incorporate them in your meals, a little goes a long way with fats. So even though it's healthy, you still have to use portion control and eat it in moderation, just because it's what 90 grams per calorie when it comes to your fats. So when we talk about healthy fats, I like to say that's our plant-based fat. So you can even see on the screen your avocados, your olives, olive oils, your nuts, nut butters, egg yolks. Naturally in salmon has a lot of fat in it, healthy fat, that you can. So when you're eating salmon, you don't necessarily need to add anything else, because it's giving you a lot of fat already.
That's the aha for me.
What's that?
What part? You just said about salmon.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't really need to add because of the fat.
Oh my goodness, yes. So if you're ever, and you can even test this out, when you're tracking your food, like say in MyFitnessPal, if you ever add salmon, look and see how much fat, even if now smoked salmon is a little lesser in fat content than, like, say your salmon steak or your salmon fillet. But yeah, salmon naturally it's good fat, but it does have that fat already in there. So you want to kind of be conscious of that, so that you're not loading extra, too much fat in the meal as a whole.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess with building our breakfast, like going back to, I chose the hash. So I have the ground meat. I'm gonna do pumpkin or sweet potato, and then for fat, it may be the olive oil that I use to cook the pumpkin.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me, going back to my breakfast bowl, right? So I have my quinoa. I've added my ground turkey. What I like to do is I'll do one fried egg on top. Yes, it's adding my egg whites, but my egg white is not going to be a lot of additional protein, because I'm just doing one egg. But that yolk is going to be my fat. So I'll add that egg white on top, and not the egg white, I'm sorry, that fried egg. And I like, my yolk to be runny, and I'll mix that all in and just make this scrumptious breakfast bowl. Hi, Candace. Or I can go that route, or I'll just do some fresh avocado. I'll do fresh avocado because I have my scallions and my tomatoes and my onion on top. So I add, my avocado, and bam, I have a breakfast bowl.
I was wondering about that when you were talking about the fats, and I was thinking about the ground turkey and the whole bowl thing. And I was thinking, well, I guess you couldn't really do an egg because you got the ground turkey, but now you've said that.
Yeah, and then with the ground turkey is leaner.
It's leaner,
so you can add that.
You can add the egg white,
and then the yolk could be your fat.
Your yolk could be your fat. So Candace, we are building our breakfast, and just to kind of bring you up to speed, I want you to first think about one of your go-to breakfast items, or just breakfast meals. Think of the meal as a whole, one of your go-to breakfast meals. And so our recommendation is to start with your protein and build around your protein. Protein is going to help aid in recovery. It's going to help build muscle. It's going to help with brain functioning for that day. So we want to make sure we have some really, really good protein. And then from there, we're going to add carbs. We want to go to more of those healthier, or I should say, non-starchy, low glycemic carbs. And then now we've gotten to our fats. So I want you to be a part of this conversation. So if you were to pick your protein first, what would be that protein that you would go towards? And there's no wrong answer, because there's no such thing as bad food. All food is good. We're just going to learn how to eat it in moderation and eat it healthy and make those healthier options. So there's no wrong answer. What would you choose for your protein? What's your go-to?
Well, for the most part, I just eat like parfaits. Just
Okay,
make that
no, that's
food.
awesome. Okay, parfaits. So
Yeah.
what are you using as your base? What type of yogurt or something that you're using?
So I do whole milk. I used
Mhm.
to do the like vegan yogurt, but then I found out that like whole milk yogurt like isn't as bad. So because I was cutting out dairy, but then I just like decided to do
So
the
can
whole
I
milk
make a
yogurt.
recommendation there? Have you ever
Yeah.
had tried the Greek yogurt?
I don't like Greek yogurt. I
Okay.
know I should probably eat
Okay, so
that.
I say play around with it because there's some different kinds,
Okay.
and they don't all taste the same.
Mm-mm.
They all have
Okay.
different. Yeah, some are a little bit more intense in flavor
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
others. So you could go with a milder one like Oiko. Is it Oikos?
Mhm.
That's a little bit milder, right? And you don't say it.
Yeah, how do you say? I don't know which one is that
It's
one?
OKIOS.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
I pronounce it.
That's one that's a little bit milder in taste.
Okay.
And like Fage is a little bit stronger.
Mhm.
Right.
So
It tastes like sour cream.
it really just depends.
It's really tough.
Right. So
Yeah.
maybe if we're just kind of easing our way in, start with the other one, right? Because it's a little bit milder in taste. And nothing says that you have to get the plain.
Yeah.
I like the zero of
Okay.
the Oikos, and I'll get like the vanilla, right? But
Yeah.
the reason why I say Greek is because it has a great amount of protein in it.
Got it.
So we're looking for protein. So if you start there, we're going to build your parfait. We have our protein if we go with like a Greek and go with the zero. And I can even tell you with the vanilla, it's the black one with the gray rice.
Okay.
Like
Oh,
black
okay.
gray container.
Got it.
I just sent her a picture of it, but it's the
Right.
peach. Don't get the peach.
Right.
I just
But
sent you the
vanilla.
picture.
So I get the vanilla, right? And so
Okay.
now we have our protein. So what are your fruits of choice? That you would
I
add to it?
always do berries.
Awesome. That's a good choice because they're going to be lower in sugar than some of
Okay.
the other fruits.
Okay. Yeah, like this morning I didn't have any berries, so I tried like these frozen peaches that I had. But it was good. I was like, oh, I might keep doing it. Is that okay?
That's
Oh,
fine.
okay. That's fine. Okay.
And then what we talked about is our oats. So if you wanted to add a little texture to your parfait, your oats are going to give you also is a good source of protein
Right.
and carbs, right? And you want so your fruits are carbs, right? And those are going to be more in the middle, so you have some fruits that are going to be more starchier than others. Some that are going to have more sugar than others. But your fruit is great. And then if you wanted to add complex carbs, so you can make sure you have enough energy, because I know you have long days and you're acting. So she's an actress. But you have these long days and you want something to sustain you. You want to go ahead and sprinkle a little bit of oats in there.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, because oats are very filling, right?
Yeah. So sprinkle some oats in there. And then I say just if you need a little bit of sugar, so say you went with the plain yogurt, you can drizzle some agave or honey.
Yeah,
a little bit of sugar. And then you have the fruits and stuff.
And then make it as tart.
And then we need fat.
Yeah.
Nuts.
I'm sitting here thinking, these seeds,
almond slivers or
I put walnuts, granola.
So we were just talking about our nuts, and you can even see our screen, right?
Right.
One thing you want to keep in mind with the nuts, or just nuts fat in general, that we said right before you came on, is that fats, even though they're healthy, we have our healthy fats, our plant-based fats, they are denser. So it's like 9 grams per calorie. So a little goes a really long way. So you want to still be careful. So even when using those nuts, you don't want to get a handful. Because they do go a long way and they add up. And so then you're adding up your calorie count.
Okay. That's good to know. Okay.
Yay. Any other questions about the healthy fats?
I I heard you talk about salmon. You said something just like don't do like avocado with it or something. Like you just don't put like
Not that you can't do
oil
avocado.
with it.
No, you can.
can.
We're just saying keep in mind that salmon comes with its own fat, right? It's already packed in there.
Right.
So just keep in mind that it comes with its own fat. So you don't want to, add too much if you are adding avocado, because salmon and avocado is so good.
Yeah.
You want to kind of just be careful because while it's all healthy fats, it's still adding up that calorie count. Now, if you go with a smoked salmon, it actually is less fat in the smoked salmon than it is in the fresh salmon. So.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay. So wait, you said carbs, fats, and what else? What was the third? Protein, right? Yeah.
And then remember, and I think you brought up this with your parfait. Protein is not synonymous with meat.
Right.
In so many different forms. Meat is just a type of protein. So when we're talking about the Greek yogurt, that's still really good protein. And we're talking about oats, that's still really good protein. Any of your beans or legumes, really good protein.
Okay, beans. Okay. Good to know. Okay. Yeah, I really only eat like the parfaits. That's all I eat.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. I think whatever you choose, you just want to make sure that you're getting all of your nutrients,
right,
and that you're including all of your macros. So you hear a lot, especially nowadays, since we're in a much more health conscious society, right? That everyone's talking about macro and macro counting and macros. And what is this big word, macronutrients? It's really just the main source of our calories. So I'll use this for an example. Whenever you get, you pick up any type of food or drink item, you have your nutrition facts on it, right? And you have your amount of calories or how much calories is in that food item or in that item. Well, that calories is made up of your micro and macronutrients that are going to be listed here. Your macronutrients are going to be your fats, your proteins, and your carbs. Macro, because that calorie count is most inclusive of those three things.
Okay.
Everything else that's listed here, when you have your potassium and your vitamins and all that stuff, those are your micronutrients. That only affects that calorie count very little. So because your calorie count is made up of those macronutrients, you want to make sure that you're choosing the better options of those. That indicates how high something is in calories versus how low it is in calories. So when we're eating, it's not about eating a little per se, it's are we eating the best of that? That's going to dictate high calorie versus low calorie. Okay. Are we eating those lean proteins? Are we eating those non-starchy carbs? Are we eating those healthy fats? We'll talk about unhealthy fats just so that you can know. Unhealthy fats, so saturated and trans fats, that's usually found in our baked goods or our fried items. That's when we get into those unhealthy fats. We want those natural fats.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Let's talk about portion. So in breakfast is a little bit different. So this plate method, we can easily apply that to our lunch and our dinner, right? When we're looking at our plate and making sure it's set up a certain way. Breakfast may or may not be on a plate. It could be a sandwich, it could be a parfait. So just thinking about when talking about breakfast, again, just wanting to make sure that we're looking at all three, or that all three are I don't want to say identified, but incorporated in our meal, right? I'll pick out everything and make sure I see my fat, I see where my protein is coming from, I see where my carbs are coming from. And just making sure that I'm not eating, like I said, it's very easy for me to be like, oh, okay, I have eggs and some sausage. Well, that's protein and some fat. I don't have any carbs there, right? So just even adding a little fruit to that, right? Or adding some fruit to that is allowing me to pull in those carbs. And now I have a balanced meal.
Yeah.
So the plate method, to me, is probably one of the easier ways to make sure that you do have everything. So like if we do have 2 proteins, we can always just place it in a box. So say, okay, I have eggs that are protein in the protein box. I have bacon is in a protein box. okay, I need some type of vegetable and I need some type of fat. And so then you can kind of identify, okay, I need to throw this in, I need to throw that in.
Now, just keep in mind that when I'm looking at my protein a lot of times are going to have some sort of fat in it. So I don't necessarily need to go find fat.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that protein, especially if I'm choosing bacon in and of itself, not my Canadian bacon, not my turkey bacon, but if I'm eating bacon in and of itself, I probably don't need to add any more fat to that meal. If I'm eating salmon in and of itself, I probably don't need to find any fat to that meal. That's already incorporated. So now I need to make sure I'm adding my carbs. And you can even see that half a plate of carbs, that's going to be our vegetables. So making sure that we're packing up or packing in that. And if we go more towards a starchy carb, so if we're putting in those grains or those potatoes, those complex carbs, you still want to limit it to a quarter of your plate. So going back to that bowl, making a breakfast bowl, that's why I said, well, I would only do a quarter cup of my quinoa or barley or farro, because I need to limit it to a quarter of my plate. If I need to eat more vegetables or fruit than anything. And then you can see fat, we don't even put that on the plate because it's kind of understood, especially if we're sauteing some of our vegetables. Typically we're sauteing in olive oil, right? Or some type of oil. So we're adding that fat back in. What are y'all thoughts about this? Beyond even breakfast, does your plate usually look like this?
No, I really do try to keep that in mind all the time.
But you've also been doing nutrition for a while.
Yeah, I know that.
And Candace, you can probably attest to this. It's kind of shifted a little bit. That starchy carb is typically half of our plate with that, right? Especially for those of us who are from Florida or any of the Caribbean islands. I think it's just Americanized. We eat a lot of starch. But it's just reshifting our plate and making sure that our vegetables is half of our plates.
And I was going to add, this is also a good way to kind of guide your portion sizes too.
Okay.
And I also think it is very transferable when we're eating out, right? So I'm not back in the kitchen measuring my food at the restaurant, but if my waiter says, okay, well, what are your two sides? Based on this plate method, what should my two sides be?
Vegetables. Candace said, "Oh Lord!"
And then I pay extra, right? If I want some rice, that's gonna be the extra money that I pay on the side, that extra side that I'm paying for, because what comes with my meal should be those vegetables, those two sides of vegetables with my protein.
But now I have a question, because I'm thinking about, how the meal prepping thing. So here I am prepping my meal for the week, breakfast.
Okay.
And I'm doing my ground turkey and my quinoa, whatever, all of that stuff. So how do I make sure that I'm having a quarter a cup at most of quinoa in each plate? Because I'm scrambling, everything.
I think if you're going to put it in your scramble, you're going to put the quinoa in your scramble. I don't think you have to think of it in that way. Then in that case, I was just saying, because I was making it a bowl and I want to make sure that I don't overeat. That was my way of making sure I don't overeat the quinoa. But if it's in the scramble, you're probably going to eat less than that. And that's okay. That's probably more ideal. I was just doing a quarter cup to make sure I don't overeat it, because I'm making that the base. I'm not.
I have to do it that way because I just can't get up early and cook breakfast every day.
No, but quinoa is one of those things that I make a pot of quinoa at the beginning of the week. And I'll put a little bit of olive oil to keep it from sticking. So after it's cooked, then I'll put a little bit of olive oil, mix it up and put it in the refrigerator. And then at that point, I can take it out and my quinoa is already cooked for the week. I take it out and then I build on top of with my breakfast. Or if you're meal prepping, you can go ahead and if you're making a scramble, just make your scramble and take out your your portions that way. But I wouldn't get hung up on the how much quinoa is in the scramble, making it to your plate, because you're not going to get a lot, enough to make it
to
concern,
overeat
yeah,
that.
to overeat it.
Yeah, no, I am going to, who is it? Jolly Green or somebody, the quinoa that's frozen, and I just steam it, put it in the microwave.
Okay. Listen, whatever.
Then I split it, split my
efficient
portions.
for you.
I was making it, but then when I discovered I could just get plain quinoa or plain cauliflower rice, the rice cauliflower, I was like, what?
Yeah, that's good. There's many different ways where you can make life easier.
Exactly. And you have
That's
to
good.
find those ways. And things like vegetables in the frozen section and fruits in the frozen section, those are really just as good as eating the fresh ones, right?
Mhm.
It's all about convenience with that. That's different from our frozen meals. That the
Yeah.
vegetables and fruit are just as good as eating the fresh ones. It's just about convenience.
All right, well,
All
that
right.
works.
So
Mhm. So here are just some different ideas or breakfast options. So if you are on the go, one thing you can do is a breakfast smoothie. Here we have this smoothie shop called Blended Smoothie. So they have a breakfast smoothie that contains what is called the 6 a.m. breakfast smoothie, but it has like your nuts, your fruits, and your veggies. So you get that balanced option of your proteins, your fats, and your carbohydrates. You can also make
I was
it
gonna say,
yourself, but just be cognizant of loading up with fruits.
Yeah.
So we definitely want to add some type of veggie in there to kind of cut that
like your
fruit.
spinach or your kale, those mild vegetables that are overtaking in flavor.
Mhm.
Your smoothie.
Yeah.
And then your base can be something like almond milk or coconut milk.
And that's your fat.
That's your fat right there. Okay.
I did not know that.
And if you want to add a little texture to it, you can add your Greek yogurt in that as well to give it a little bit of,
Make it
thickness.
a little bit thicker.
Make it a little bit thicker.
Yeah.
And then you add your vegetables. Just do a handful of spinach or a handful of kale. You can do your frozen fruit, and you can add. I know people who add. Well, if you're doing the any of those milks, you've added fat in there. But if you like to put a little bit of nuts, you could. Or if you go another way, you can do coconut water. And we're in Miami. You guys can get that fresh off the tree.
We get it right off. No, we get it right off the tree out here, Joy.
Yes,
We
so you have the coconut water, and then you do want to add your fat, so you can add like a nut butter, or you can add. I know some people who add coconut oil. They'll put a little bit of that in there to add that fat back in there.
And if I want chocolate in there.
Well,
chocolate.
you can do some chocolate. You'll want to do, so there's different ways of going about that. I would do the cocoa nibs, or they have the powder. If you do cocoa powder, that doesn't have, look at that doesn't have any sugar in it.
Like Nestle cocoa powder?
Yeah, the cocoa powder. Well, not the one with the sugar, not the
no, just the bitter.
Nestle makes one too.
Oh, do they?
Mm-hmm. So not the one. We're not talking about
the plain one that we use to make hot chocolate. It's plain. It's
real hot chocolate.
It don't have whatever in it.
It doesn't have anything in it. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, when I hear Nesquik, I think of the stuff that we grew up
she
on.
said Nestle. She said Nestle.
I know.
No, not Nesquik. No, Nesquik is something totally different. Nestle is just the cocoa that you bake with it, and Candace bakes too. My mom bakes. Yeah, you bake. Mm-hmm. That's just plain cocoa. Yeah. So add a little bit of that. If you want chocolate.
That chocolate peanut butter.
Yeah, you want chocolate. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You can add a little bit of that to your if you wanted to take your parfait in a different direction.
Berries and chocolate.
I could try that, yeah.
This is one of my favorite. I probably wouldn't do a 2 bread sandwich because I'm thinking about my carb count, but I do an open face. So, big now avocado toast and things like that. But you can make the smoked salmon toast, just keeping it 1 bread instead of 2.
Yeah, and then another alternative, I think you use it, right?
Mhm.
Instead of like cream cheese, they have like the Greek cream
They have
cheese.
a Greek cream cheese. You guys look for it. So I don't know if you're familiar, Candace, with the store Sprouts, or if there's a Sprouts in your area.
No.
Or even a Whole Foods. Actually, you know what? I take that back. Walmart, grocery store. They have Philadelphia cream cheese also makes a Greek cream cheese. And Greek cream cheese is lower in fat. And I use that on as my, instead of regular cream cheese, I'll use that. I'll add my salmon, I'll add my capers and tomato, red onion. You can do, I like arugula. But add that cream back in there and you have a meal.
Okay, let me ask about that bread, because you know I have been doing it and I love it. The Dave's, I did the Dave's, but the raisin bread.
Yeah, probably don't want to eat it every day. Remember?
Yeah.
Every day.
Maybe just one slice.
One slice.
Only one, yeah, only one.
Maybe not every day.
Yeah.
And if you do it every day, we're thinking the day as a whole, right? So if I'm having that bread in the morning, I'm gonna be thoughtful of that in terms of what carbs I'm leaning more towards the rest of the day. So even
that's if I do the raisin, right?
Right, but that's if I'm doing my English muffin in the morning, right? I'm still thinking about my day as a whole. So I'm probably not for the rest of the day. I'm gonna probably stay more towards my non-starchy carbs at that point.
Okay, well, what's another good bread? I like grainy bread. So what's another good bread?
Outside of Dave's Killer Bread?
Yeah.
Any so pita. So we were talking about even pita, making pita.
For the salmon?
Or you can do the Ezekiel bread.
Ezekiel bread. I know
I don't like Ezekiel bread.
Yeah, but I know people who love it. So there's people who love Ezekiel bread. That's an option. We talked about English muffins, any of the you know how they do the bagel thins.
The bagel.
Pita bread, and we would do half a pita. So those are all good options. And at the end of the day, I think we're so used to, society has trained us to say good and bad. Nothing's bad. Everything is good in moderation. So even if you get Nature's Own, get one slice. It's going to be okay. It's not going to throw you off. Now, when we get into croissants, maybe we probably don't want to do croissants because croissants is nothing but butter. So we probably don't want to do that. And then just
fat for the week.
Yeah, but I don't want you to get hung up on, I need to have this particular brand for it to be good. That's not the case.
Yeah.
And then here goes the hash.
Yes.
Since it is pumpkin season.
And Rashawn, our resident pumpkin lover. She loves pumpkin, like pumpkin. She loves this type of year.
It's pumpkin season. I think it was August and everything started coming out. And it was like this meme that says, summer's not over for the pumpkin folks.
Pumpkin folks here. So, and she's not alone. We have a lot of people who love pumpkin.
Yeah.
So that's a good hash that is great for the fall, right? Where pumpkin is in excess right now, right? And that actually looks delicious because you can even see the greens in there. You have your turkey. I'm assuming that's like a ground turkey. You have your onions, and I love to throw a fried egg on everything.
And then we even add to this, if you like things a little spicy, I would even add some sriracha.
Oh, so even my breakfast bowl, I didn't say that, but I add sriracha on my breakfast bowl
to give it a little kick.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to send out these recipes afterwards as well.
So
thank you.
And let us know what you
All right. So
this was good. This was very informative.
As a recap, when building your breakfast, let's build it around our protein. Our protein is going to do what? Give us what? Why is protein important?
Energy.
Well, yes, it definitely is going to give you energy, but even more than that, it's going to help with recovery. It's going to help sustain us throughout the day. It's going to help build
That's
those
what I was thinking.
muscles. And then when we start adding those carbs
That's where that energy comes
is
in.
our body's preferred source of energy. Now, our body can take energy from any one of those categories, but our body's going to want to take it first from your carbs. So you want to give your body enough carbs so it can burn that energy the way it wants to. And then we just want to make sure that we're incorporating that healthy fat. And then remember portion in that plate method, right? And portion control.